Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Towns. In the previous episode we came to the town of Newton to check up on the production of blue science packs and deal with a couple of biters that have been moving in from the southeast. So there was some trouble with the steel production. There were only 2 furnaces running, and as it turns out that was nowhere near enough, so we've doubled that up to 4 and things seem to be working better now. I think I did inject a couple of extra bits of steel into the system anyway to just sort of kickstart things, but it seems to be holding at about the same level, and my expectation is that at this point the batteries or something like that will run down, and then the steel will no longer be the limiting factor. So we've got the trains moving through, also getting distracted by biter attacks, so they're always going on in the southeast, not the southeast, the southwest this time. But yes, the southeast has been seeing some biters moving in recently, and that is one of the reasons we're here and we brought a tank along, which is probably going to become a permanent resident of Newton. As we now have one permanently in place in Forton and in Chipton. We're sort of posting them as needed in the places that are sort of most under threat that we can launch some attacks from. Though at some point we'll not need them anymore. Once we get to a power suit, we'll just be carrying around our full offensive capabilities with us anyway. At which point the tanks, I guess, will just become sort of random relics sat around not being used anymore. Because you always sort of get to that point where the power suit is just better than the tank, and the only use the tank could have is if you want if you want to be in the middle of a base before people start attacking your power suit. So you just drive into the middle with the tank, get blown up, and then suddenly you're in the middle of it with a fully armed Iron Man suit and all the bots and everything going crazy and killing everything. But anyway, we're not at that sort of level yet. We will at some point set up a town for the production of power suit things, but for the moment we don't have the time to set it up. We don't have a location to put it in, but we do have the technology. We have done all the research needed for sort of all the basic stuff, so that's definitely something to look at, and we do have alien science going on, so we can get all the research complete, and indeed we're running out of research at this point. We're about to finish some there, and there it goes, and you can see there's only like 2 rows of research left now. We're really burning through it quickly, and just like in Rail World, we're going to run out of it far before we've sort of reached the full potential of the factory. And since Rail World, I've realised that you sort of just have to carry on when the science runs out, because it's sort of like when you come to all the train stuff, and just like making big train networks and things like that, you always find that the research runs out before you can really properly get going and completely realise your plans. So you just find other things to use your resources for. And it'll be interesting to see what we do with the science towns after we just run out of research. We do want to keep them in place because there'll be occasional updates that will introduce new research that we can do. And indeed, the developers have been talking in the most recent Factorio Friday Fact about what they're going to be doing with research, because they have also realised that it gets done a little bit quick, and they've also realised that there's sort of a bit of a leap between green science and blue science, because like green science packs you can make with one little array, but when it comes to blue you have to set up an oil system and have batteries being produced and have this whole array for you do need an array for advanced circuits as well, and you also need the smart inserter production. And a big issue with it is that you struggle to get going with it until you're like almost out of green science already, just because the oil is so difficult to sort out. So they've been thinking about like either making green science a little bit more difficult or making blue science a little bit easier and rejigging some things there. But they've also been thinking about extending the science and giving you more stuff to research, because as it is at the moment, you have a bit of a sort of extension in the form of the bot limiting, or the removal of the bot limits, where you can have up to 134 destroyer drones with you if you fully upgrade it, and by the end of it you're putting like 1,000 of each kind of science pack into it, and it's always a research chain that goes on far beyond everything else completing, and it's usually the last thing you do, or indeed like you might even do it after you do all the rocket research. And to a certain extent it makes sense, because while you're doing the rocket research it's the perfect thing for your science labs to be getting on with, though of course it does take away resources from the production of the rockets. But they were thinking about doing more stuff along that line, having more research chains that just keep going a bit further, because like people want laser turrets to have more damage, they want better power suits and stuff still, so you could just make it so that you have more stages and you have more tiers to do. And they were also thinking about stuff like just upgrading statistics in a linear fashion, while it takes an exponential increase in science packs each time. So it might take like 10% more science packs each time, and you gain, like, rather than 10%, you gain 10 points in some sort of system. Or even crazier, and like you need twice as many science packs for each research to keep like adding on 10 more damage to what laser turrets do and things like that. And some people don't like that because it's not an interesting new thing, it's just extending something you already have, but it does at least give you something to do with your science arrays and your and all your resources. If you want a reason to go out and be setting up new outposts and getting more ore brought in and more assemblers set up, then you do just want something that you can sink ridiculous amounts of resources into, even if it's not really worth it, just for the completionism of the whole thing. Another thing they were considering was, well, one thing they were thinking was to have those as infinite researches, where like it just gets so insanely exponential that at some point you just never actually complete research again. You're just trying to complete one and barely getting anywhere, or you just end up with insanely powerful laser turrets or gun turrets or bullet damage, or an infinite limit on how many bots you can carry and things like that. Or maybe even like the speed of logistics and construction bots, just to go in a sort of Bob's Mods style of craziness direction and things like that. Because there are plenty of things where I want them to carry on extending further. Like the... I've now forgotten what I was going to say, but yeah, there are plenty of areas where the research only goes so far. Like bot speed is one of them. I wish the bots could go faster after the point where they stop. You could have more, like you could have less of a stack size limit on inserts and things like that. But anyway, we'll talk about that some other time, and we'll see what the developers come up with. But we are back now in Newton, having dealt with plenty of biter bases down in the southeast. We didn't get sort of as much as I was wanting to do, but I think we were sort of running out of ammo a little bit, so I decided just to leave it for the moment. So there are some bases sort of down in the south that are still quite near to the pollution, but we have pushed them back a fair bit, and it should be a while before we have to worry about them again. Of course, in the southwest, everything is still not so great. There are many very large biter bases inside pollution range, and it's really not good. But in Newton, we are sorting out the iron supply. As it turns out, now that we've doubled up the steel production, there was no longer enough iron production, so we ended up adding in 2 new furnaces. But I did originally plan for that, and I did leave a gap of 3 so that we could fit in extra furnaces for either the steel production or the iron production, depending on which one still needed a little bit extra. So we've got that in place, and we've also added in some extra miners to make sure things keep going there. But also, you'll notice that the battery production is really not so great. It didn't even fill up the chests when the train arrived. It immediately went onto the belt and didn't even fill the belt. So yeah, the batteries are now the limiting factor of blue science once again, and we'll address that at some point. But it's not particularly urgent because, of course, we're going through the science so fast already that it's really not that much of a worry. And in fact, we probably should be doing research slower at the moment because there is the whole issue of pollution and such. And what is not going to help with that is that we now need a new steam engine array. We had 3 with a total of something like, I think it's 8 steam engines on each, 2 per array. So we're looking at 48 steam engines, and we're now going to upgrade it to 64 to make sure that we have plenty of power production for the future. We've still not sort of decided exactly on what we're doing with the pollution and the power situation, whether we should use efficiency modules, whether we should use solar panels, or whether we should just build a giant wall and never let the biters break through it or anything. But there's still a bit of time to work that out. I'm still making my decision, and for the meantime I am continuing to add in more steam production, because my original plan was that I wouldn't ever go to the renewable power sources this time, because we've done that in so many other series so far, but it's becoming an issue and getting in the way of having fun and making cool towns and things like that. So we'll work something out eventually. So we're setting it up. We've got the steam engine column in place, and now we need to work out the water, all of the pipes and things, because things are getting a little bit messy with the pipes at the moment. I'm not used to setting up large-scale arrays of steam engines, and also the water is not in the best position for them. I like it when the columns are sort of perpendicular to the water, so you can just have pumps come out and go directly into each one of the individual boiler columns. But as it is, we're having to sort of send them around a corner and we're running out of space to actually put the pumps on, so it's getting a little bit fiddly, but we'll work something out. We do have some water going in, but at the moment we've got like 1/3 of the water for half of the engines, which is not the best way to do it. So we'll start looking at the piping and such. And it's very good that we actually have like visible like water inside the pipes. It was a very good feature to add, where you could actually look at the pipes and see what liquid is in them, and also how fast it is flowing. And it's quite important to know how fast it's flowing at the moment, so I can tell where we need more throughput, where throughput is irrelevant and things like that. Because there's somewhere the water's going at insane speeds, and there's somewhere it's going backwards, which is a little bit weird. Just because it's sort of... I haven't considered how the ratios will work, and things are going in a different direction to what I expected. But anyway, I get things set up, and then I'm a bit confused because everything's going backwards, and then I realise that, of course, I haven't actually connected it up at the other end yet. So we get that in place, and then things start moving a lot better. Everything's going in the sort of direction that I was expecting from it. And all the steam engines are running, so that's a pretty good sign, though the water is not brilliant. I think in the end I have to add in another pump to make sure that they're not all running on sort of minimal amounts of water and constantly boiling through whatever they have there. And unfortunately that does mean making the wall look a little bit awkward, and we could have put it like to the north instead of the current pumps we have, but I was feeling lazy and I just wanted to make sure it connected up to the right part of the pump array, so that should be fine. We've added in 2 more pumps for the new column we've put in, which I think is slightly improving the ratio of pumps to steam engines. I'm still like throttling it a little bit, which is not the best way of doing it, but the water supply is mostly good. But yes, we'll make our way back up to Forton in the car to resupply on ammo and see how things are going up there. So go over to the train and we find that actually the ammo supply has backed up. We had a chest with a capacity for 5 stacks, and it's completely filled up, and the belt's filled up, and all the assemblers have stopped, which is in a certain way bad, because we want the production to be continuous so we can get a nice supply out of it. But it's also good in that we had what we needed already stocked up, and also it meant that the pollution receded for a while, and so there haven't been any biters actually in range of Fortin's pollution for a little bit, to just sort of calm the situation down. Of course, I've now set things going again, and I've also allowed the one chest that's operational to unload into the train that we have in place. So that means that the pollution's going to start expanding out again. Everything's kicking in once more, and the biters will shortly start attacking again. But it's good to have it sort of to have the pollution recede from now and then, just to clear things out and then continue. But also having the pollution recede for a while is less efficient overall, and you'll end up like, if you have sudden waves of pollution going in, they're more likely to reach the biters, whereas if you have a constant steady supply of pollution, then you're constantly making as much use as possible from the ground absorbing the pollution as it passes over. So I make my way around the turrets, increasing the amount of ammo that's in each one from 10 to 25, as is the standard across Factorio towns, because we now have plenty available, which is nice. But as soon as I do that, I then change my mind on how I'm going to do things anyway. I'm going to set up the automatic loading system. I'm going to carry on extending it around the south side of the base, which means that I'm going to have to empty them out again, because I don't want to be sort of wasting the capacity and having 25 in when I can have turrets be automatically loaded with 10 and then kept fully loaded anyway. Because then if I have the automatic loading system in place and then they're all loaded with 25, then that's 15 ammo in each turret that could be used elsewhere in loading other turrets in other places. And we now have plenty of iron available from our last trip to the main base. I say plenty, we are already down to less than 1 stack from all of the turrets we're making and all of the underground belts and things, but we're continuing to extend it along to... I just end up sort of going towards the middle to like the point where we have the original turrets that we put in around the station itself that we leave in place. And while we're up here, there is an explosion down in Chipton West, so we need to go and have a look at that. It's on our main defensive line there, and that's still not sort of properly set up. I really should just put a proper wall in there, to be honest, to make sure that the biters can't just run past like the main line and blow up the individual turrets, or just start blowing up the miners themselves. But we want to respond to that pretty rapidly, so I just do a quick bit of an inspection. And then there's another explosion down in Chipton West, and it becomes even more urgent that we just get over there right now. I was sort of thinking I could hang around for a minute and make sure everything was finished up in Forton, but clearly the biters are not waiting for me to sort out my inventory, so we'll make our way down quickly. And we find that the situation is really not good. Apparently there was an explosion earlier on that I just didn't notice, because the ghost image of the turret that was there was gone as well. But they'd blown up entirely our main defensive line here, as well as blowing up the radar in place, which is really not good. So we increased the capacity, well, we increased the number of turrets to 4 to try and help with that, and we also double up the walls, because once you have them too thick, the biters cannot reach over and just like attack the turrets directly, which is probably what they were doing. In fact, it has to be what they were doing, because the walls weren't blown up, though it could have been spitters that were responsible. But yeah, if a big biter can get to the wall, he can just reach straight over and attack the turret. So I really shouldn't have the walls be so compressed like that. It was probably not a good way of doing things. But we've doubled that up. And we've gone back to the main base to get some more iron, because of course we used it all up on the automatic delivery array up in Forton. But yes, I think Chipton will be one of the first places to have its own like self-construct. I've forgotten, not self-constructing. That's once we get logistics in place. What, like a self-resupplying turret system installed, because it's clearly the town that needs it the most. It's the one that's getting attacked by far the most. With Forton probably coming in second, even though it's like in the middle of a bunch of biters up in the north. But the pollution in the southwest is really just terrible. It goes for miles, and there are so many biter bases inside the range that I haven't even, like, I don't even want to tackle the issue of like pushing them back beyond the pollution range. But we do need to do it at some point. I might even do it next episode, just because this has happened and they've managed to like get very, very close to just blowing up like Chipton West entirely. They'd taken out the main defensive line, and there's like only 4 other turrets, and they're all in individual little defensive posts, and it wouldn't have taken much effort for the biters to just start blowing, like blasting their way through the whole thing, and then they would have just eaten away at all the miners and ruined the whole place. So it's a good job that we did spot that explosions were happening, because we definitely missed some earlier when the first turret got destroyed. But yes, of course, we have to deal with the biter base that is responsible. There's one that's far too close. Not as close as the one that we had like an episode or so ago, where it was like you could see it from Chipton West, but it's still not very good. They managed to blow up one of the turrets as we start advancing in, just with sheer force of numbers. And this is very different from over in the southeast. In the southeast, there's lots of little bases, like 3 spawners and a worm, and things like that. There's a couple of larger ones down in the south, but generally it's quite easy to deal with. I just needed to make sure I set up the defensive line, and then I can probably just run in and take them all out in one go. Meanwhile, in the southwest, there are huge bases, because they're all freshly made, with like the latest evolution factor numbers and things like that, with the biters at their angriest, in the middle of pollution, and yeah, it's all the worst conditions. It's probably only a matter of time before these things start spawning behemoths as well, which is really not going to be fun. But yeah, they're a lot more difficult to deal with. You have to do multiple runs to take them out. And yeah, as we were attacking that one as well, there was a group of spitters that just ran past on its way to Chipton West. So we carry on up to this base as well. There's another one that we should deal with just to the south, you can see on the mini-map. But we only really have time to deal with this one last one today. And we might deal with that next one in the next episode. And at the moment, the pollution's receded a fair bit, actually, because the stone outposts have been shut down for a while. But it's still not really very great, and as soon as we clear those out, we're probably going to go visit the stone outpost anyway and resupply from it, which is just going to set the whole thing off again. But yes, this particular base was quite a tough one to deal with, just because of how many worms there were. There were only 2 spawners, but a very large number of worms, and I just spam a bunch of poison capsules at them to get them dealt with. I don't even like go for a lighter number of capsules and then finish them off with the tank. I just completely kill them with the capsules, because it would have just taken far too much work and ammo and dangerous ramming and things like that. So back to Chipton West, where everything is in a much better state now. We make sure that everything is still fully supplied, and the biter attack should now be a lot less frequent. But there's also ones coming in from the south as well. I don't even know what base they're coming from. I doubled up the turrets in that particular spot just to help with that situation, but still, we should just put proper walls in, and I really don't know why I haven't. This is definitely a long-term deposit. It's a huge thing, and it's not going to be going anywhere, so I don't know why I haven't just properly defended it. I think it's because I'm not sure what it is. It's not quite a town, and I need to sort of decide definitively what I'm doing with it and exactly what it counts as and things like that. But anyway, back in Forton to resupply once again on ammo, because we've burned through so much of it dealing with those bases and resupplying the turrets, where I also fixed the platforms because we got those wrong earlier. I set them up and they look a lot more realistic and nicer looking now. And also we find that we've got plenty of copper mining done, so we'll have enough room now to set up the automatic loading system up here as well and continue extending it around the base. But that is enough for today, so I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.